All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. If everybody could quiet down and take a seat.
Thanks for coming. Who is happy about in person? Thank you guys so much for doing this. Yay. Okay, so we want to do a panel today kind of to talk mostly about listings we have. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves because you'll do a much better job than me. But we have some wonderful, fabulous top agents with us today to be able to share with you guys. We're going to talk about, we want to answer questions you guys might have for them also, but some of the things we're going to talk about are how are they getting listings right now? How are they winning multiple offers right now? Tapping and working with the luxury market. Are you guys doing more database business versus more online lead generation business? Kind of all different topics like that. So we'll walk through. Troy, what am I missing? Anything else?
I think that's about an 8-hour class.
All right. So let's start. Just introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about yourself. How long you've been in the business? Todd, you go first.
Todd Bering from Bering Faust Group. Been in real estate since 2013. And I'm the team lead, or rainmaker, whatever you want to call it. And really love working with the team that we've really grown in the last several years to it's more like from going from a team to a family. So
How many agents do you have, and approximately how much business are you on track to do this year?
So right now, so we have about 18. We have 18 people who are licensed, including ISAs, and then support staff. And right now, as we have 30,000 at regard, 30 million we've already sold, and we have another 11 on the table, and then we'll probably be somewhere around 60, maybe 65 this year, 65 million.
Awesome. Allie?
I'm Allie Close. I'm, team lead rainmaker for Close Connection. But of the Close Connection, let's see, there's 4 of us who are related. Mom, who's in Florida most of the year, my husband, and my sister-in-law, who works mostly in Arlington. And I have 1 admin and then 2 other buyers agents. I think last year we did right around 50 million.
Perfect.
I'm Mandy Mancini. I'm with Remax Connection. I work on a team with Michael Casey that I run and manage. We do about 80 to 100 million a year. There's 12 of us. I've been licensed since 2014. I do about 30 million myself each year.
And no one will be able to compete with the cuteness of her hair.
I know, right?
Like whoever can pull that besides her.
I was sitting here wishing I could.
Yeah. Okay, Roger.
I'm Roger Wilcutt. I started the Urban Living office. I'm also started my career at Keller Williams, this office in 2013. Circled back.
Had a little stint away.
Yeah, and just started the Urban Living office in the short north. I've been licensed since 2013. I have a team of 5 agents. We do about 40-ish million, hopefully more this year. And we have 13 total agents at the Urban Living office.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, what do you want to start with, Troy?
I think the topic of the day is listings. So I think what our goal was with this group, obviously, traditionally, we're gonna go down the line, but I think let's just do more of a mastermind style. I think if you guys kind of talk amongst yourself in front of us, so feel free to ask questions too for clarification. And then if there's a really specific question that one of you guys has, Dana and I will try to keep you on track and not get too off track, but in the same token, just kind of make this more of a mastermind style. So in terms of listings, if anybody wants to start, is anybody having a lot of success doing something unique, fun, different, or is it more just kind of going back to the basics and maybe that's unique, fun, and different compared to what you've been doing? But what are you guys having the most success with in terms of getting listings in this market?
I would say what I've been doing is kind of sticking to my sphere. Obviously going back to past clients and reaching out to them. I think a big thing that I see a lot is agents reaching out for listings and things like that, just contacting people, but not providing information and support to, consumers out there. So I think a big piece of what I do in my marketing is provide, education to sellers out there. And I think that kind of in turn helps people, educates them, to make a decision if they want to sell. And so I think a lot of versus just soliciting listings, I think that's helpful. And I get a lot of feedback that, sending out market updates and kind of letting people know where the market is. I'm honed in on a very specific area downtown, so I kind of stick with that area and hit it really hard. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing. And I get feedback people really like, versus just soliciting listings, providing information for people and answering questions and, letting them know kind of what this market is.
So would you say kind of like a local expert? I mean, when you say giving them education to the sellers, is that what you're saying, like market updates and just kind of what's happening?
For sure, because I think a lot of people are hearing about what's out there in the market. It's a seller's market, it's crazy, but it's in reality, it's different in every neighborhood, in every suburb. I mean, where I sell, it's completely different than it is in Hilliard or Dublin. So we're not seeing that same market. Everything isn't going 20% over list price. Things are going quickly, but it's not insanity. So there's a different expectation to set for, high-end condos downtown versus, a house in Hilliard, things like that. So, yeah, absolutely.
Roger and I actually work the same market. We do very different things within that market, but what's interesting is every single one of my clients recently has pulled out a paper from Roger Wilcutt. And there's only about 5 or 6 of us that kind of own that downtown market. So they know who everyone is, but every single person has said, oh, well, Roger said this. And it's really interesting. So it's working.
Yeah.
But I
They
think
still hired me.
I still have to.
It's there. It's there.
But one thing that's been working for me, obviously going after your past clients is huge. I've been kind of cherry picking like my top past clients and doing something different or special for them. And that's really started a dialogue between myself and them.
What would be an example of that?
So I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Columbus Book Project. They're 2 books, they're black and white. And when you put them together like coffee table books, they're super amazing. The girl that makes those, I know. So I have been buying them in bulk. It's been my move-in gift, especially for downtown. It is such a cool gift because it pinpoints all of these really interesting things downtown. It talks about our city. But I hand wrap them, put a bow on them, handwritten note. And my notes have been like, man, it's been a year. So thankful you're my neighbor. Just like something like that and something personal to them. I have gotten a phone call after every single one because it is so different and thoughtful and special. Yeah, and it's not costly to me. And actually one of those books is the person that had the letter from Roger that I got the listing. It's actually my first client I fired last week. I was really proud of myself. Anyway, so they called me and they've been obviously getting all of this stuff from so many other people. And another thing that I'm noticing, there are so many auto dialers going out right now and letters going out right now that are agents that aren't even within our market. But my clients will forward them to me. I had a listing we removed because they changed their mind on what they're going to do in the timeline. And they got 3 calls that day from agents that I had no idea who they were, but they were auto dialing about expired listings. And then one other thing that was huge for me last week, I got 2 listings from this. I know a girl that left the business and she actually left the city. And I called her, she's been in the business just as long as myself. And I said, can you start reaching out to your clients? I need them.
It's a great idea.
I got 2 listings from it just last week. That is huge. And I'm gonna pay her a referral for it. So, I mean, why not? I probably have the buyer on both of those because she was also a downtown agent. So that's been really big as well.
You just reminded me of something. I just heard on one of Gary's top agent masterminds, they were saying that a lot of the top agents were doing database swaps. And so they were calling like their lender or their insurance person or their eye doctor or whoever and saying, hey, I've got 12,000 people in my database. I don't know how many you have, but if it's roughly around the same amount of number, let's swap. Like I'll give you my 12,000 email addresses and you give me yours or your home addresses. And they're all doing all these database swaps just to build their database to be able to connect and reach out better. And you remind me because of the girl who's out of business because you just never know. I mean, people still have databases. And they still
Big
work
ones,
contacts.
yeah. And she's been gone for 4 years. I couldn't think of better timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a good idea.
I just get ideas, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I like to get 1 or 2 ideas. What I'm most success with, I'm really hyper-focused just in Dublin. I mean, I know it's kind of always the joke that my car doesn't really know how to go beyond the limits. It doesn't.
I know how we paid tax not to come out here, so we did.
You get it, yeah, exactly. I'm like downtown.
Ooh, I get there.
So part of what we really, it's been educating people in general. They're like, oh my God, you must be so busy. I'm like, I'm not. Because you put it on, it's gone within the weekend. It doesn't give you as much of a chance to work it and things like that. So people just, they're like, well, do you have time? I'm like, I have all the time that
This is
you
my
need.
job.
This is my job. This is what I do. I have all the time that you need. So it's been trying to reconnect with people again, just to be like, look, we're here. This is the market. And when I've been talking to my team this year, I said, this is going to be a year where we're going to scrape. And it's going to be, you get a buyer in contract, you list their house. Because people are still so afraid to sell their house because they don't have any place to go. So we are trying to do a lot of that. It is literally scraping for anything off market, anything we get our hands on to get the buyers in, to then turn around and be able to list. But what we're also having some success with, a lot of people have started to build earlier this year. And now we know the inventory is going to be coming on for those houses that were being built, because we know when they're going to be done. We know everything else. That'll be a time when we're listing those houses as well. And that's just kind of trying to keep in touch with people you hear are moving. They might not have been with an agent to build their house, but maybe we can help them on the tail end. And that probably what I think I do very well is I just have groups of people and groups of friends and other moms and everything else. And I just try to talk. I go out and try to talk.
New builds. Really get good relationships with those sales reps. They will feed you business all day long. And it's huge because they are seeing so many people, they can't go and sell their house, and they are selling houses all day long. So if you get a really great relationship with them, you'll get listings from them.
Oh, that's right, because here they just work for the builder, right?
Yeah.
Correct. I wish we had that.
That's actually really big.
Bigger ones, some of the smaller ones.
Really
Yeah.
big thing.
So you're saying maybe because if they're building a new house, they can't go sell their resale?
Correct.
So they have to call
Got it.
another agent.
Wow. I'd be taking them some of those books.
I just keep selling their houses. Yeah, and so
So
they,
Todd, how are you guys, obviously you have a bigger team. So like, what's the dynamic? I mean, you have your sphere, the team sphere that you're obviously continuously working. Number one, are you doing anything different than these guys? And then number two, how are you motivating your team members to go out in their individual worlds and do the same thing?
So obviously we're a lead gen focused team, but then we have like 2 teams in a team. We have what we call our full-time agents, and then we have our part-time agents. And so what we've seen on our part-time agents is that we're really working the referral network. But the full-time agents, what we're seeing is we're getting listings from, like you said on the panel, you buy a house and they sell a house. But one of the things I will say that I think when we're successful in listings, I can honestly say if I were to ask the team, when we go on a listing appointment, we never lose one. I can't think of one that we've lost yet. And what part of I think what we have to offer, our value proposition is we have our pre-listing package where we go out and we do like 3 big major things for them. And so by the time we go through that, it's kind of like a no-brainer. So we're starting to roll that out. We're going to be doing some videos and we're going to start doing some marketing around that, because what we have found is that, and it really works at any price range, is that people just want help. They want hassle-free transition, and they just don't want to have to worry about anything. One of the things that we do is we send a house cleaner out to clean their house. And I can't tell you how many times the women especially just get really emotional over that, because it's like that's one big burden that they don't have to worry about. So we really, I'll be honest with you, the model that we set up earlier wasn't really, it was about getting our foot out. Getting our foot in the door and and getting the market share. And then over time, we talked about this, is switching over to a more referral type based team. And now we're starting to see that. I think we have over what, 6,000 people on our database. So these are clients that we, had some type of connection with. And so now we're going to start really working that over, coming out with a different, we just hired a marketing person full time. So we're going to be different next year. But I would say just the value proposition, you have to have one. I mean, it's one thing to do it in numbers and go out and do your presentation and leave and think, am I going to get that? But to go out there and know that you're going to walk away with the listing, that's the kind of the walk that we do.
Is majority of your all's business all sphere or non-sphere? Like internet leads, or I guess, or what's the ratio? Would everyone say?
I would say mine is 60-40, but what
Which
we're
side?
60 lead gen.
Okay.
But what we're starting to see is that because of what we've done on the buy side, they go to list their house. Like Kevin, I think a couple of weeks ago, we had one in Brandon where they just were blown away. We listed it, and then they referred someone else that he's working with. That's like a $700,000.
Oh, that's great.
So that's what we're starting to see.
One thing on top of that too, I just thought when you said you never leave a listing appointment without getting it, I've always said the same thing, is if I can get in front of them, I can get the listing. I always, whenever I leave, before I leave, I also offer to have my housekeeper clean their house and things like that. I try to schedule something. When can my housekeeper come to your house and clean? When can I get photos? Because if there's a commitment before you leave, even if they're not willing to sign listing paperwork, you're almost guaranteed to get it. So the nice thing is working in such a small area too, I have potential buyers for almost everything I list. So I say, if I can get this, if we can get this moving quickly, I can bring buyers, all,
Immediately.
as quickly as possible and things like that. So that's another thing. Before I leave listing appointments, I always try to make a point to get some kind of commitment, like when can I have my cleaner come? When can I have a photographer come? When can we meet again to get this paperwork signed? Things like that.
You're setting an appointment for something.
Making something, you know what I mean? Then people are, like last week I had a listing appointment and they were like, we can schedule this. And his wife was like, well, I guess we have to cancel the other appointment with the other two realtors that we were interviewing. And he had never mentioned anything about interviewing multiple people, so I was like, I'm glad that I said that and got that like on the books for someone to come clean their house. It was just someone come cleaning their house. I mean, but it was something that we set a commitment, we set an appointment, and they were good. So I like that. I think kind of doing something there that requires a commitment from them is really important.
Did anybody have any questions about listings before we move on to multiple offers or anything else you guys would add around listings? Yes.
So in a normal market, if that's what you guys keep saying, I started in January, so this is the only market I know.
You'll be great.
Yeah, you will be.
You're gonna be a superstar.
How will these listings look when you really, really have to market and get them sold? It's not gonna sell in 3 days, it might sell in 30. Back to maybe the way it was. What will be different? Are you doing the same thing you did then now, or is it? Because right now they sell.
So our market does not sell
Yeah, it
in
doesn't
a couple
sell.
days. And we actually are the only market in the city that has inventory. So if you got anybody, come downtown.
What is the average days right now for downtown?
It really depends. Like condo is moving differently. Price points are moving differently. You have this gap of like 550 to 750 that will sit and 750 up will fly. Like it's just a weird, there's no rhyme or reason.
Do you feel like
to it.
every day you're having the key, you keep up with it? I mean, every day.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just like riding the wave most of the time.
Same. Yeah, it's like a roller coaster, but it's I think also one important thing with this market is agent relationships.
Huge.
I know for sure that I win multiple offers because I'm friendly and have the relationships with other agents that have the listings. I'm not naive enough to think I'm gonna have all the listings and all the buyers for those listings. So I have really good relationships with every agent within my area that I sell, and they like to work with me. So people will say, like, I got an offer from this person, like, can you sweeten up your offer because we'd much rather work with you, and we do. And that happens actually a lot. And then just having relationships like Mandy and I do off-market deals together all the time because we're friends and, you know, we do this with all sorts of other agents too. So I think that's really important too. And that's one thing in a competitive market that agents forget is being friendly and being a good co-oping agent and letting people know that. Because that gets you a long way.
Well, that's gonna work in a crazy market or a normal market or
Well,
anything.
that works in every
Well,
market, for
yeah.
sure.
It gets your listing sold. I mean, Roger and I market things to each other before we market them to anyone else.
Because
And
you'd
then-
rather work with each other.
Yeah, and why not? And so, you know, just picking up the phone and also like, if you're listing a house in a neighborhood that you don't necessarily have those relationships, figure out who's selling all the houses. Like, you better believe if I come to Dublin, I'm calling her. It's probably my first phone, you know what I mean? Like, I
Oh,
know, yeah, and so you know these agents that own these markets in major ways, right now, it wouldn't matter, I could throw anything on the market in Dublin and it would be fine. But in a normal market where that might not be the case, you call the agents that are selling the real estate. It always surprises me downtown when someone comes into our market, especially the condo market, and they haven't picked up the phone to talk to me. Because I own the market in such a huge way on the buyer side. So why didn't you call? And a lot of times we'll sell something else before we'll sell that because we know this agent or we built that rapport.
I would say in a normal market, what we used to do before you got, you know, houses selling 2 or 3 days, you know, there's a process for everything. You've got to definitely have a process for your listings, and part of that process is the marketing plan. You know, put it on the market, schedule open houses, do Facebook ads. We used to do that, you know, several months or last year, and we did it like clockwork. And I tell you, before this market started, our longest day on market, I think the longest one we had for last year was 46 days, and it was a house that was on the market for 3 years, and it was over $1 million. It was the house across the street from Tartan Fields, the pool. And we sold that, and it was on the market for 3 years before, but we did open houses every weekend. We did Facebook ads on it, because you never know, it's almost like silos. You never know where that buyer's gonna come from, so you gotta work them all. So my biggest advice would be is you know, always have a plan and treat every listing the same, because once you get on that, you'll find out what works. When you look at last year and you say, okay, I did this step, how did it turn out? How many days on market was there? What tweaking do I need to do? And then you make the adjustment, you try it the next year. So I would definitely have a plan for your listings.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Awesome.
And you never know who's, you know, the neighbors might be seeing what you do for their listing, you know, like, so I treat, you know, there's some times where I think something's gonna go in a day and it takes 3 weeks. And there's other times where I'm like, this is gonna be a while and it goes in 2 days. It's a lot. It just kind of depends. But I treat every listing the same and market them the same and kind of go in with the same approach. Because, you know, they might talk to their neighbor and say like, he had, yeah, my house sold in a day, but he was gonna do all this stuff, you know, and have this kind of plan together. So other people are watching too, you know, that's how you get listings in the areas that you work a lot. They notice the stuff you do.
We had a listing, let me just say one other thing too, and sometimes you gotta look at, if you got a unique listing, we had one on Bel Ann that it was basically a box with furniture in it, and they wanted 1.1 million. And I thought, wow, so we ran a Facebook ad. We ran it in Cleveland, Chicago. We ran it to 5 different areas, and I think we spent like $500 on that ad. And I'll never forget, a guy, his boyfriend saw it in Cleveland, called his partner in Chicago. They came down for the weekend. They walked through the house. They were only there for 15 minutes. And the agent says, I'll be in touch with you. And they ended up buying it.
Wow.
Cash deal. The guy in Chicago was a grad student. His family had just sold their business for $928 million.
Wow.
And he got a loan with no job. And he put down $700,000 in the bank. US Bank gave him the difference.
Wow.
And it came from the Facebook ad. So sometimes you gotta look at the property different too, because that property, there's no way, and actually you and I talked about it, because I mean, 1.1, it's just a box with furniture. It wasn't a great house.
It was a great location.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well,
Deep water.
But if it wasn't for, yeah, but if it wasn't for the ad,
Wow.
because it was on the market, it was on the market for a year and a half.
Before you guys took it.
Took it.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. You want to switch to multiple offers?
Yeah.
Okay, before we do that, I have told Ally's your story about those people wanting to pay the buyers cash to walk away from the deal, like everywhere. Whatever happened with that?
We did find out who bought it, and well, the agent,
Will you tell the story?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah.
we had I had a cash buyer putting an offer on I'm just gonna go north of $1 million, because I don't want to throw this agent under the bus or anybody to figure out who it was. So there was over $1 million. It was we thought, I asked specifically, are there other offers, any others cash? And there was one other offer, not cash. So I've got an all cash buyer, we're coming in. It came in I think we came in at list. So I'm like, okay, I got cash, they've got to get a loan. We're at least gonna get a look back. My buyers actually know who these sellers are. So I'm like, I figured at least they'd come back. Zero communication from the listing agent. Come to find out that there was like 6 or 7 offers on the property. 3 others were cash, and this is all after we were told we lost. So my people just were heartbroken, and they were like, can you go back? She's like, what if I offer him money? So we offered $100,000 to have the buyer walk, and I don't know that it got presented. Because I come to find out that agent was a dual agent.
Yeah.
It was a dual agent. There were so many things I think were done incorrectly on this, but it was a dual agency, and he didn't, I'm like, look, we will pay the agent, we will pay the buyers to walk away. Since I found out who the buyers were and $100,000, we'd never do it.
Oh. Is that I mean, I was blown away by that. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
But I mean, when it was, when I found out he had the buyer, he did a serious disservice to his sellers. But at the other side of it, I'm like, I don't know what the conversation was.
Yeah.
So I can't.
Don't recruit him.
Yeah.
No. But it should have gone for a lot more than what it did, but there was no communication. So, and I've since run into another buyer, same exact thing, zero communication, nothing.
I mean, isn't that kind of what comes around goes around eventually?
Yeah, karma. The daughter knows the sellers. At some point, I'm sure something's gonna be dropped.
So as soon as they close and are moving, you can go over there again and talk to the new buyer directly.
Yeah, but I know who the new buyer is, and
Okay. We got up the end.
$100 grand's not
Yeah.
gonna do it.
100 grand's not gonna do it.
Okay.
Now, the money is not an issue. So 100 grand.
So with that being said, what are you guys doing to help your offers get accepted more?
Andy actually has a really good trick that she told me the other day.
I do, tell me.
So, everyone is setting these deadlines, and you go in with, buyers willing, an obnoxious offer, but say, this is the offer. If you accept it within an hour, if you don't accept it within an hour, it's
This is
this. I mean, your buyers have to be ready, willing, and able to really step it up, but downtown, they generally are, and it works. I mean, we pressured some guy with like 50 grand over, and he accepted it in an hour, and they would have gotten more, but they did it, just because it was right off the bat, it was under pressure. You don't give them time to think. They're kind of scrambling, and they did it,
I think that's the biggest thing from start to finish. I do not lose. I will not lose.
Yeah, man, you really get every offer.
But from the very beginning of the showing, actually, even if it's a lead, like the pace that you're setting with the buyer on the phone call, setting the appointment, getting them in, the pace on the showing, right? You've got to get them in. They have to understand really like how this works, how this moves. You have to get them ready. They have to be willing to like sign up for the firstborn, the dog, the pony, the whole thing. But that's on you. All of this like lackadaisically walking through a house, like it is your pace that sets the tone 110%. So once you have the buyer in, then you basically just anything that you're telling them they're going to do, you have to establish how much cash they have. That is the biggest thing. I have so many agents on my team, they're like, that's so uncomfortable. And I'm like, it is your job. So I changed the way I'm saying it. Now I'm like, how much are you expecting to put down? Because I want to hear that percentage. And when they say 20%, I'm like, yeah, see, we got this. So I'm like, look, that's not really a thing anymore. Let's talk about 5%. We need the rest of that cash to win. What does that look like for you? And from there, A big thing that's happening in this market is that agents are waiting to see what will happen. Don't be the agent that waits to see what's gonna happen. There's gonna be other offers, you know that. Pick up the phone and call the listing agent. It is mind-blowing to me how many people aren't picking up the phone. I call these agents and they're like, no one else has called me. I have 10 offers. And I'm like, what? No one's called you. You're gonna like me if you talk to me. I'm very nice. You're gonna like my client too, because I'm gonna sell them. And from there, tell me what you want. What does your client need? I'm gonna send you an offer from a really qualified buyer and we need this house, we need this win. Tell me what you need, I'll make it what your client expects. I'm gonna give you a short deadline. I need you to not shop my offer and I need your client to sign. I have not lost with that conversation yet. Now, it's different if they've already set a deadline on MLS and they don't have the verbiage that says, so also protect your seller, have the verbiage that says buyer or seller has the right to accept any offer at any time. If you don't have that, they have to stick to the deadline, but sell your client. Tell them the story. Every person has a good story. That tight timeline thing, huge. Seller closing costs, huge. It doesn't matter how you throw out this money, it all kind of shakes out the same in the end. But for some reason, the perception to a seller of that seller closing cost matters. Like it's all still the same amount of money, but they think you're paying something else. You just have to get creative in these ways. It's all about, real estate is literally about perception on every side of it. And so that for some reason gets them. But that offer deadline thing, it's so
Do
good.
they ever come back and say, well, they were willing to pay that, but it's been 3 hours and I want that price? And then you're like, no?
Yeah, usually
Take
it's
my
just do
offer.
it.
Sign my offer. I don't care.
Yeah.
Do you want me to come clean your house? Like, take my offer.
I think one of the things that we've been doing is we've been slowing the buyers down. And when So what I mean by that is we've been doing buyers consults, which is, we've been talking about over the years, and I think it was a lot easier over the years just to go out and show a house and put them in. Yep. Now you really got to prepare them for battle, kind of like what Andy was saying. So that's kind of slowly becoming a requirement. We'll show you one house, and then if you don't sign a buyer's agreement, you don't come in for a buyer's consult. Pretty much part ways. I think the short timelines and changing the price, we've been doing that for a while. The most thing that makes me proud about what we've been doing is because, with a team our size, I would say, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I would say probably 80% of the time we get the deal. And, we were talking about 1 or 2 agents that were high performers. I would say that would be low, but when you got a team that size. So I know the things that we're doing as far as a buyer's consult, really, because when it comes time for writing an offer, and we have it's 23-step buyer's guide, how to win the offer. They pretty much like a la carte tell us, well, we want number 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, So they write the offer for us.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
So, no,
Oh.
the buyer pretty much writes the offer for us and tells exactly what they want to do. And it's that initial contact that we have when we do the buyer's consult.
That's a great idea.
That's really making a difference.
That is nice, yeah. It kind of helps you get to know what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing I think is just setting the expectation with them, and then also like making sure they know, you know what I mean? Like you have to set the expectation with them. When I meet with a buyer, I, kind of fill them in on what we're looking at here, depending on where they're looking. If they told me 350 in Hilliard and Dublin, I would have a very serious conversation with them. To not even try.
You should set
But
this one up.
like if they have no cash,
That conversation many
but
times.
having the conversation, like getting to know what they're looking at, what they're, and then setting the expectation, and saying, okay, like, this is gonna be really tough. We need to look at things that have been on the market for a little bit. It's not gonna work at, if you're up to 350 and you have no appraisal gap coverage and you're going to be stickler on these items, that we need to look significantly lower, so making sure that you set expectations with them, up front, so they know kind of what to expect, I think is really important.
The other thing is to really partner with a lender that can work the tricks. And what I mean by that, we work with a lender, and he was telling us this morning, someone comes in with 20%, maybe like Manny was saying, you know, you don't use that 20%, you know, you take the other part and you make that, you know, their appraisal gap, or maybe they pay a higher percent interest rate and they get more back. I mean, there's different ways to get them in contract, but I would definitely partner up with a lender that can work the tricks.
And
because-
that's huge.
Yeah, it's very huge.
And have your lender call the agent.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
getting ready to say that.
And either that lender's saying, I have a super qualified buyer, they're ready to rock, and we can close this in however many days if they're selling the client too. And also saying, I have proved, you know, I've seen the reserves, they're able to cover this appraisal gap. So if you're not sending proof of funds for that appraisal gap, then make sure that lender is speaking to that. Lender partners are
That's
game changing
huge.
right
I've seen a
now.
lot of agents request the appraisal gap coverage now lately, like in a proof of funds, which I hadn't seen before. So now I'm starting to see lenders, you know, either write the amount that they're going to be financing, or, you know, state a dollar amount, you know, which is
Oh,
just telling of the market we're in.
if any of you have been on the listing side of multiple offers, it's probably like the most uncomfortable situation ever in life. I mean, it's gross. And I just think about every time I'm submitting an offer, what that feels like, what that looks like, and how overwhelming it is. So I love Loop. I live by it. Please attach your PDFs to the bottom, just a side note
Yeah.
in general in life. But take your documents out of Loop, take those PDFs out, send it from Loop too, put the PDFs in, but take those PDFs and in your subject line, cash, 500K, 50K over appraisal, and literally list out. And then I've even seen people put, this is your offer, or this is the offer
Like a
you're
cover, are you saying
taking.
like a cover letter?
No, I'm
No, like
talking in
the
the
summary,
subject
the
line.
summary line.
Oh.
All
okay.
caps, so address, I put winning offer, star, and then literally every bullet point of my offer, because there's a lot of agents that aren't super seasoned and they're not used to this, and no one is used to this market, so it's so overwhelming. Your offer is getting missed a lot, your details are getting missed a lot, trust me. Then in your email, bullet point out your hot points of your offer, break it down for them so they have it. That is like a cover letter. Then they can just print that, boom, it's there. They already know it. They got all their info for their spreadsheet right there. There have been many times that I have noticed we've lost on an offer, that our offer was better, and I guarantee they missed something. They missed the call out of the cash over appraisal. Sometimes they even miss that it's cash. That's wild to me. But if you have 20 offers, you're probably missing a lot. So I feel like that's a little bit of a
That's a good point,
offer
yeah.
hack.
I'm gonna throw out the one thing we've had luck doing, especially with buyers that we're working with. And again, I'm hyper local. I can guarantee you, I know somebody, it's a neighbor or 2 doors down or something who knows that family. One, we got a very, very hot property. Their daughter just had twins. My buyer was pregnant with twins.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, we were in contract that night. They cut off the rest of showings that weekend. We were done.
Wow.
I mean, it's like little things like that is how can you find,
Connection.
it's common ground without, I mean, I know there's the line, you know, we have to be careful right now, and I'm not sending any pictures of anybody, and I'm trying not to get into too much of the familial status and everything else, but if I can find some sort of common ground, and our offer is still fantastic with all the other stuff you need on it, heartstrings matter.
Yeah.
I will find that commonality somewhere somehow.
How did you present that to them?
To them,
Yes.
just said that,
Oh my
she's
gosh.
pregnant with twins.
Like,
And when we were-
over the phone or?
No, oh, no,
letter?
no, always, yes, on the phone, but also in a letter, and it was more though, hey, I noticed in your pictures in the house, you had twins, we're expecting twins, you know what I mean, it just is such a perfect house for this, and
That was good.
I love that.
Also lucky. That's a
Yeah,
good-
that's lucky.
Lucky they're having twins.
That
Are
helps.
they?
So these are all really good, actually, a lot of stuff I haven't heard before. So Ally, you nodded your head and said I've had many of those conversations when Roger, excuse me, was talking about the unrealistic buyer
Mhm.
for like 350 in Dublin.
Mhm.
I think it would be super helpful to like, if I'm happy to role play, or if you just want to like tell them, like, what does that conversation look like or
So
sound like?
what is your cash situation?
Like so the same thing, like how, you're looking to put down how much, what do you want, you've been approved up to 350. How much cash down is that requiring? Again, questions with the lenders, what can the lenders do, everything else. And then, okay, what other cash do you have? Because anything we do, we're gonna have to guarantee through appraisal, it might be 50
What do you
over.
mean, what other cash do I have?
Because we have to, you kind of go into a whole conversation about the appraisal. If you go in at 400, but the house only appraises at 350, you have to put down $50,000 plus your 20%, your 15%, whatever that number is, in order for you to be able to get this house. So then I don't have that kind of money. Well, what about mom and dad? What about aunts, uncles, anybody else that, I'm not saying they have to put up the money right now, but we have to have access to it should something happen. And if they kind of hem and haw, I'm like, okay, well, you need to have this conversation. You guys need to be able to figure this out because I do more listings and more the team does the buying side. But because of, I can show them, look, here's my spreadsheet. This is the last $400,000 house I had. This is what I got. So imagine you're now writing an offer, you're in, you might be competitive with price, but this one's saying, I don't care where it comes in, we will cover the entire amount. Or you saying, I have $3,000, who's gonna win? So it's easy to.
And the thing is that, once again, like, it's all a process, right? You should be interviewing every single buyer that you have, and you should be asking the same question, because it doesn't matter if they're dressed poorly or decked out to the nines. You never know what their financial situation is. And, Tina had one the other day, we had a listing where it came down to 3 offers, and the one offer was at 685. It was, we listed the place for 619. They only had a $15,000 appraisal gap, and then we had another that was at 640 with 100%. So, Tina called all 3 agents and said, look, let's forget about this escalation. Let's get real here. What's the price? And the person for 685 said, well, 15,000 the best we can do. That agent did them a disservice, because you're basically just putting ink on paper and wasting your time. So it's having that real good conversation with your buyer to say, look, this is where we're at. And you almost you should really, right now we all know the houses, just be safe. Most houses are going to go 13% over asking. So you should already be prepared to tell them, hey, look, they're asking 620, but be prepared that this place, because we even figured it was going to come around 640, and sure enough, it's exactly what happened almost to the penny. And so for that agent to do that to their buyer, but we love those agents because they fire those people. We have them sign a loyalty agreement, and they come our way. So yeah, it's perfect.
That does point out, though, that there is a difference between the listing agents too, because there are new agents out there who are, to Mandy's point, who haven't done a bunch of listings,
Right.
who would have never made those calls to the buyer's agents, who would have accepted the 685 because it was the highest price.
So I'm going to share one with you, and we're closed now, right? Okay. So we just had one today, and I about had a coronary this morning. So I have a guy who is the president of IGS, and he sold his condo. He called me up.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. So he said, hey, I want you to sell my condo. So this newer agent just listed one that was down at the end, and he listed for 425. And we were getting ready to put ours on the market the same day. And I said, oh, crap. I said, let's not do that. Let's wait until it goes in contract. So it went into contract that weekend. We put ours on the market Tuesday. And our unit was smaller, not as nice, didn't have a patio or nothing. We went in contract for 435, and theirs closed yesterday for 430. And I thought, oh my God, our people are going to see that and say the deal's off. The only reason, and what I'm saying is, when you're talking about newer agents, if you're a newer listing agent and you're not familiar with the market or the product, please reach out to somebody, because if I were that person that sold at 430 and I saw that the unit next door to me went for $5,000 more, and it's not, it's like a $75,000 in amenities difference, I would have been upset.
Wow.
Like I'd almost quite, and the other, because what's scary about it, it was 2 people in the same brokerage. So it's almost like that deal, because it went in contract the first day. It's almost like they said, hey, I'll give you this, You don't have to put it on the market. It went in contract for exactly what they were asking. They did that person a disservice.
That was my same deal. They did their service,
Yeah.
such a big disservice.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I don't think sellers know right now what agents who, I'm gonna say better, are doing behind the scenes. They're just happy like, oh, I just got 430, I'm thrilled. We got list price, or I got above, or whatever, and they're thrilled. But then you can kind of look at other homes. Like if I get 2 or 3 offers that are close or similar, I'm on the phone with those agents. I'm working, like you said, different things. Like I like this term, I don't like this. You're close in price here, you're not here. So I'm changing things with all those 2 or 3 top contracts all the time. But you know, somebody else is like, hey, I just got list price, or I got 5 grand over, I'm happy. They don't know.
And just because someone gives you terms, and that's for the people on either side, if you're, well, it's basically for listing, but just because 3 people have given you terms, you know, to me, I love that auction effect, because then it's like, call your seller and say, hey, do you mind if I contact all these people? And then they should say yes, and then you become the auctioneer, and then you just call, you know, they say, Ally, okay, I got your terms, but this is what it's gonna take to get it. And she's either gonna play or she's not. And we've been doing that a lot too, yeah. We've been getting a lot more than that. People just really get passionate about it.
They want to win.
Yeah.
People just want to win. I don't even know, sometimes you have to be a little careful about that too, though, because I feel like some people win the house. I had this happen, actually not this year, last year. My client was like, I don't even think I want the house. And I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like we got in contract, we won, but I think it was about getting that win. And that's wild. I mean, because then you're in a pickle. You're in contract to buy a home.
Yeah.
One thing I was gonna say about multiple offers too, if you are on the buy side and you have lost, call, or actually text that agent and ask them why you lost. Get the details. Forward those details to your client. Talk about a way of getting them in line. When they see what it takes to compete in this market, especially if you're having a hard time getting people up and giving enough cash, sometimes they need to see it. They screenshot it, usually the name of the agent is saved in my phone. This is what won that house you lost on. That's huge. I bet you on the next offer, they come to play.
Do you ever write on mine? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Most
me
agents
afterwards,
will
I'll
write
tell
on
you.
you.
Well,
Some won't.
Just tell me
but-
before.
Try.
You've
That'd be
done that to me
nice.
a couple times.
I'm gonna work with whoever fits it.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes. What else? I feel like I have a whole list. Do you guys have any questions on multiple offers? Anything you're wondering about?
I would say if we only have 10 minutes, I'd love to hear from each of you guys what change you've made in your business in the last 6 months that's had the biggest impact.
Good question.
Well, I can tell you, for me, our team, it's people. Before, I think we used to just fill chairs. And now it's like with the help of Tracy and team on that part, we've gotten better at that. A lot of people from the outside have always viewed us as the rotating door, and no, I've always had the philosophy, I give everybody an opportunity. I don't care if you have sold 30 houses or no houses at all. I just always believed in giving someone the opportunity. I think
We're all new one day.
yeah, I'm still that person, but I think now the team has taught me to really stick to the KPA, and that has helped a lot. It's given us a better team, a better family atmosphere. I think as far as the biggest change that we've seen, and I can go on, but you know, Rhonda has really been instrumental as far as like the buyer's agreement and the consultation. We used to talk about all the time, but really never hit hard with that. So she's been leading in that. You know, we have the ISA department now that has been huge. You know, I've heard about ISA departments all the time because all of us don't like picking up phones and calling people. I'll be honest with you, I don't either. My problem is I start talking and I can talk forever. So having an ISA department that has the same message has really made a big difference on our team. I would say everybody find the right seat on the bus, and we've really worked on that. And we've added positions. When we have a transaction coordinator, you know, that is just, we call her Busy Cat. So it's just made a big, big difference. Just making sure you got the right people in the right seats, and then testing out, you know, like I said, the ISA department. They really, each month, they contribute probably 6 to 8 deals.
Wow.
So would the bow on that be that you're providing great service to your clients, but you're also providing great experience for your agents on your teams by
Oh, yeah.
adding, getting the right people in the right place so that they're going at 120% at what they're doing every day?
Yeah, you know, everybody, you know, they all know, a lot of people view me as being a hard ass, excuse my language sometimes, but I'm really not.
Number 8 on the sheet.
I'm really not. I'm just really passionate about what I do, and I'm definitely passionate about my team. To the point that sometimes we kind of, you know, we came out with videos that we did a couple weeks ago, and I was watching Tracy's, and I was at home getting ready for work, and I got all emotional and stuff because it's just I can see it in the way they talk and the way they operate. This is the best group I've ever had. And so, like I told them, if we continue to operate, you know, our goal beginning the middle of last year was to consistently hit 20 deals a month. And now this year we're talking about, guys, we're ready to start doing 30 deals a month, because the last 4 months we've been at 20.5. And, you know, I keep wanting to pass that opportunity back to my team, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. And so one of the things that we talked about last night on our leadership team is we talked to a 401k plan provider. And so we're getting ready to offer 401k plans for our agents.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just a lot going on, and I think that you definitely have to have a daily routine, which we do, and you definitely have systems in place. I'm sorry, I can talk to this.
Ally, what about you? Last 6 months, due to the market, what changes have you made?
Well,
that
we
have a
are
big impact?
shifting more and more to concierge, more and more we can do for our sellers or buyers or whatever, that, you know, every other thing. I'm excited the shift is kind of coming back, because I think where we excel the most is literally with our, just being in front of people with events. I'm big on events. Like, it's funny, my office is in downtown Dublin. I'm on the parade route. Dublin just announced a couple weeks ago that they're gonna do the parade this year. I cannot tell you how many texts, emails, notes I've gotten from people who've come before. They're like, okay, we're not real sure how to ask this, but are you gonna have the party this year? Yeah, can we come? What are we doing? I'm like, it's coming out this week or next week. It's coming out next week. Yes, we're 100% on board. We're doing the parties, we're doing everything else. So it's been, people miss it. They want that, you know, that interaction back. And that honestly is where my team succeeds the most, is with, I'm not saying anything. We're not as much transaction based as we are more, we do, everything is relationship for us, 100%. And that's really all we've ever done. So the more I can provide to people, the more I can get things done for them. And in addition, because I'm involved in a million different things, you know, mom is, different people are, we like to have people when they come into town for whatever, I mean, you guys are getting slammed from people from California.
Yes.
I mean, they're just coming in from California. But if people are a little more, you know, philanthropy minded, I tend to deal with higher end clients. I'm trying to set them up with people I know on boards. I'm trying to get them affiliated with the community rather than just the house in their neighborhood. So it's really trying to go the next step into helping them find friends, helping them to get involved,
Get connected.
get connected.
I just
So
wrote
it's,
connected down.
yeah, so that's what we're really trying to make the shift more about people than anything else.
So you're saying we should advertise in California?
Seriously. Yeah, I can't believe the number of people buying right now from California. I've never seen this many.
In Charleston, it's New
Yeah.
York. Literally, it's
Everybody's from New York,
nonstop.
okay.
Everybody from New York is buying in Charleston, like over and over and over and over. It's like flooded with
Yeah.
people from New York.
Mandy?
So I'm trying to be more relationship based. You guys know me. I am a super transactional agent. I'm very heavy on leads, and I will turn and burn clients. Patrick was on our team. He knows this. Troy's been working with me on this exact thing. And my business had to change this year because the leads are not what they were. There's not as many, people can't compete. I mean, it's all these different things that are happening. And so I've been really focusing back on my relationships, my past clients. I have great relationships with my clients, but I'm like, I will show you 1 or 2 properties, you're in contract and you're gone. And that's a wild thing to say, but it's just how my business works and it always has. So I'm really trying to get more relationship based. And Troy made me create a database a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, actually, which has helped tremendously. And also my social media. I am not good at social media. Like when you look at it, it's a lot of houses. My stories.
And dogs.
And dogs. Luna, she's very cute. But I post so much of my in contracts just sold, just listed, all of that, and I keep that in my feed. And then on my stories is where I'm posting, like, I'm in some of the coolest shit in the city. I mean, it is pretty awesome. I don't like think about that every day because it's just what I do, but people love it. And we have sold so many properties off Instagram this year. And those Instagram clients are actually FaceTime sales. Like I've never met them until the end. So that's been really huge and kind of a pivotal thing for me this year.
I would say just really focusing on what we know. My market's very hyper local.
It's his building.
At the building I live in.
Your building, yeah, your
And the 3
building.
buildings surrounding it are pretty much where I do 90% of my business.
You just don't even
I know. So it's probably 80 to 90% of my sales are just literally the building. So I see the people walking my dogs every day. They know me because they're my neighbors, things like that. Connecting them with the community, like Allie said as well, though, I'm involved with different things throughout the neighborhood and throughout the city with the James and things like that. And so neighbors will chat with us and say, you have to work for Roderick's, he knows all the neighbors. He'll get you tuned into this market really quick, tuned into the neighborhood. So just really kind of focusing on what I know. I think I used to be consider myself as an urban agent and I market to anything remotely urban. Now I really spend my time and my focus on that hyper local market. Like I said, I'm in the Arena District in Parks Edge, North Bank, and Vernon Square. Those are my 3 buildings. People call me from other ones, that's great. I'll take a listing, I'll work with buyers, but those are my 3 buildings. I hit them hard, nonstop, and it's working. So I would just say, no, do what you know, relationship based, of course. I think that's really good because in this market, you really can be transactional and it's good to have relationships. It's a little bit easier for me because most of them are my neighbors. So there is a relationship in some way. But I think just really kind of focusing in on your area, what you're familiar with, where you're known, and find a way to tie into that community. If you weren't from here, find a neighborhood that you want to hit hard and that wants to be your area, maybe your own neighborhood, and find a way to really tune into that market. So I think just really focusing on that versus being a broader agent has helped a lot.
You don't even need a car, do you?
I don't. Except when I come here.
It's so interesting, so I was just writing that you guys said, local, hyper local market expert, that's being the local economist. Gary's been saying that for the last 2 years, hardcore, that's what we have to be now. And all of you guys have done that. The relationships matter big time with co-brokers, with your past clients, with anybody in your sphere. The relationships was huge. Adding just the personal touches and being able to really get more relational. And then expectations was said multiple times, just setting very clear expectations with your clients were the big, huge ones. And it's funny because it always all kind of comes back to the relationships and database and sphere anyway. No matter if you're transactional or relational, even in this market, people who were transactional are moving away from that and trying to be more relationship based, which I think is awesome.
Really helpful.
Any questions? Was this helpful?
Yes, really
Yeah.
good.
You guys
Good, well,
crushed it.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much. Great job. Thanks for coming.
Very good.
Yeah, good
See you.
Yeah.
But, like,